Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Val.
And this is it, our first episode of 2021. Guys, we made it.
Yay! I've got my party hat. I'll put this party hat on.
I don't know that I've ever seen...
Is it working out?
Totally.
Yeah, it's looking good. I love it. I don't know that I've ever seen so much excitement on New Year's Eve to get out of a year than what I saw on social media and everything for this particular New Year's. And so hopefully 2021 trends in the right direction for everybody. And I hope everybody has a good and prosperous 2021. I don't know that any of us have anything big going on this year. Nothing really happening for any of us this year.
No. What could it be?
No, nothing at all.
What could be going on?
I'm getting married.
Woo! Well, getting married.
We need to do like a whole month of wedding movies.
Yes. As you're leading up to your wedding, we'll do a whole month of wedding movies. That would be
Wedding
fantastic. There's a lot of really good ones.
September can be wedding month. I watched Runaway Bride yesterday while I was cleaning. I don't know if that was the right one to watch.
She's like, what have I done?
Your fiance is like, I hope she's not getting any ideas here. Runaway.
Warning. Warning.
Well, it's very exciting. Congratulations, Val. We're very happy for you and very excited for you. That is awesome and great news.
Thank you.
Just great. And so we're hoping it's going to be a big year for everybody. We're hoping it's going to be a good year for everybody. We thought it would be fun to start out with Jack Black January, because how else can you start out a year any better than talking about Jack Black movies? We all love him. He's fantastic. He's hilarious. And we are so excited to talk about his movies this month, but we're starting out the year even better with A Big Year, or The Big Year, as we talk about our big year, which I think is a movie that is really well done, but really, I think, slips under a lot of people's radars. I don't think everybody is as familiar with it as I really think they should be, because it's a really great movie. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The Big Year. It's all about not bird watching, but birding, I think is what they keep correcting everybody to, is birding in the movie. Yeah. And this is like a real thing that people do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I had discovered this movie, and you guys know how much I love birds. Like, I have like a whole arm dedicated to birds. I know, right? And when I had discovered this movie, it was very quiet. Like, nobody had really told me about it, but I had seen it, that it was coming out. And I went and saw it, and I already have an affinity for Jack Black. And then I find out Steve Martin is in it, and I absolutely love Steve Martin. And at the time, he wasn't in a lot of things. He's been kind of quiet for a while, just doing his music and hanging out and making money. But every time I tell someone about this movie, they're like, I'm not a huge Jack Black person. And I'm like, no, you need to watch this movie. Like, it's not about Jack Black. Like, I feel like he is him, but he's not. He fades into his character in this movie so much more than he does in all of his like kind of slapstick movies. And this movie has such a great message, and it's just fun. Like, it's feel good. It's fun. The relationships that are in it. So don't automatically be like, I'm not a Jack Black person. Great, you guys are having Jack Black January, but no, you need to watch this movie.
I agree. And I think when you look at the cast and you look at Jack Black, you look at Steve Martin, you look at Owen Wilson, and you're going to think, I mean, just with Jack Black and Owen Wilson in it, and you know it's a comedy, you're thinking it's going to be super slapstick. It's going to be over the top. And it really, really isn't. Like, when you hear about the premise of the movie, that it's about these guys that are going on a big year, which is you're trying to spot as many different species of birds in North America from January 1st through December 31st of one year. When you hear the premise and you see who's in it, you're thinking this is going to be, at least I did before I saw it, it's going to be something like A Mighty Wind or Best in Show, where they're taking something that's a real thing and then they're turning it into kind of a mockumentary or a spectacle. And kind of making fun. And this doesn't do that at all. This is really, I mean, it's rated PG, so it's super family friendly. There's not anything inappropriate in it. And these actors that do great comedy, they do it in a very subtle way in this movie, and they treat the topic with respect. Really, I mean, I came out of it
100%.
thinking, I'd really like to get into birding. I'm not going to because I've got too many hobbies as it is. But like, you come out of it, you're like, that's actually a really neat thing that they do, and it's really kind of interesting. So,
well, and this competition is really neat because you don't have to take a picture of it. You don't have to have anybody there to witness it. It is this competition between the birding community that they have enough respect for the people that are doing it that they say, we believe you if you say you've seen it, which I think in this day and age where everything, or if you heard it, you don't even have to have seen it. You're right. Or if you've heard it and you know the call of this bird. And I think in this day and age when everything's on video, everybody records everything. The fact that there is this still just very natural kind of gentleman's, and there are women that are in it, but you guys will understand, gentleman's handshake of a community is really cool. I really liked that.
Well, and they even, as they go through, there's kind of a point where one of the other birders that Jack Black runs into kind of suggests that maybe Owen Wilson's character is kind of cheating to pad his numbers and to get his numbers up higher than they were. And then you kind of find out toward the end, it's not the case. Like, he has been honest about everything that he's found. The guy just goes to these great extremes and great lengths to set the record and to be number one, to the point, well, we can talk about it. But anyway, I think that's very interesting. I thought the gentleman's agreement part of it was very, very kind of cool, that that's still a thing and that people trust it. And it's like, yeah, it's just your honor on your honor kind of a thing.
Well, and I want to touch back real quick on
there's three
on what Val said regarding Jack Black, is that you would expect him to be the wild and crazy one. And nobody gets wild and crazy in this. And Steve Martin was the original wild and crazy guy, let's be honest.
Right.
But nobody goes
wild and crazy guy.
but nobody goes there. But it's interesting because the one that does the closest is Owen Wilson's character. He's the one that's a little bit more out there and a little bit, but even that's constrained and respectful and quiet.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, there are definitely moments where you're like laughing and, you can't believe this or that or the other. And I do think Owen Wilson's character is more closely to characters that he's played in the past, but he does have those moments that we don't usually see. But there are three totally different characters in this movie. So you've got Owen Wilson, who has done the big year before. People look up to him. They're in awe of him. They know if he's doing a big year, they're all in trouble. He's a little bit eccentric in his clothing. He owns his own company, but does he actually run it anymore? Just because he has to win. He is that character that he's got to win. And if he thinks someone else is going to win, he's like, no, I got to do it. I got to beat them. So he's kind of got that personality. Then you have Steve Martin, who is this businessman who has this big family, but is known for being a businessman. He owns, he's at the top of his company, the top of his career. People know him, and he's just always wanted to do this. But he's always been at work. He always gets called to meetings. He always gets called away. And so his wife is like, you have to do this. You have to just take a year and you need to do this. And he always has like business people following him. Like, what are you doing? Like, wait, we've got to, like, are you sure that this, yeah, Joe McHale. And then you have Jack Black, who's just like an everyday guy who works this job, who is doing it on the weekends. And, his parents are helping him out with money, and he's maxing out his credit cards to do this thing that he just knows he needs to do. And so I feel like there's a representation of kind of everyone in there. And I have to say quietly that Angelica Houston is one of my favorite characters as well, even though she's just in it for like a minute. But I love her so much. There are just so many great people in this movie, even side like Joe McHale, Angelica Houston, who's Jack Black's dad. Yeah, Jack Black's dad, who's Ryan Dennehy, is fantastic. That one of my favorite moments in the movie is with him. So it's just very thoughtful.
Well, and I think talking about the three very different characters, you do see three very different journeys through this as each character kind of goes through this experience. And and I love the development that we see with Jack Black's character. I love the development that we see with Steve Martin's character. And you feel bad and so sad for Owen Wilson's character because he just, I mean, he does it to himself. Everything that happens to him, he does it to himself. And, but in the end, you just feel bad for him. But I love the development of the friendship between Jack Black's character and Steve Martin's character and how that opens up doors for both of them. But really, I mean, for Jack Black, because his dad doesn't really understand what he's doing. His dad is not on board. His mom's like, yeah, let's travel. Let's book your travel. Here's some extra money. Here's the credit cards, whatever. But his dad is like, I don't understand this. What are you going to get out of this? What are you going to get paid? What's the prize? And there's nothing. It's just, he wants to do it. But in the end, and partially because of his relationship with Steve Martin, because he calls him one time and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know your son is a great guy and I think he's amazing and I think he's really got a shot at setting the world record this year and he's just really awesome. And his dad kind of sees him in this different light, like he thinks he's just goofing off and following some stupid, crazy dream, like my parents think about me with this podcast, I'm sure. But like, then he sees him in this light of like what he's accomplishing and the respect that he has from this person who is a really well-respected person professionally and in the business world. And I think that changes his whole outlook and he starts to see it differently. And you've got that wonderful moment where they're in the woods and they're looking for the owl and he's going with them, and just like, it's just really touching and just really sweet. I love this movie. And I think it's one that we'll probably watch on a yearly basis now. So
I think Steve Martin really doesn't get the credit for being the actor that he is. If you want to see a really good subdued Steve Martin film, The Spanish Prisoner that came out in 1997 is a really good one. It's a lot of talking. It's very dialogue driven, but boy, you know, he really can sell that. And when I love that scene where they're having dinner together. And he's obviously this rich businessman, and Jack Black's like, I'll have the salad. And, you know, he can't afford anything else, so he'll take the salad. And Steve Martin's like, you obviously you're not a salad guy, you know. But he says it in such a charming, disarming way that it's just fun to watch. And like Val said, this is Jack Black like dialed down to a 1. This is Jack Black, very subdued and it's still Jack Black and it's still a fun character, but he's not the take your shirt off and make you laugh kind of silly.
Yeah. Yeah. Very.
Yeah.
If that's
I
what
think
you're
it's a good partner to, I think it's a good partner to The Holiday, because we talked about The Holiday and he is, you know, a very thoughtful character in that as well. Not that his other, we'll get into his other movies, and I think almost all of his characters are very thoughtful, but he does it in a very comedic way. But I like this one. I like him in The Holiday, and I like him in High Fidelity, because I think that in all three of those movies, he shows that he's more than just a comedic actor. He's really good with thoughtful timing. He's, you know, really good in his silent moments. You know, that's what he has most fun at, and that's what he makes all of his money at, is being, you know, the comedic relief. And if you watch him on Instagram, he just put another really amazing video up 2 days ago, which was awesome, and he makes my day. But I'm excited to see more of what he has coming.
Yeah. And I would like to see him in more roles like this. Because I think he just is a much better actor than people give him credit for. And it's hard because you do have that mindset about Jack Black. And as I was watching this, I kept thinking, he's got to be a screw up. Like somewhere along the way, as he's going out and he's doing this on the weekends, he's got to be a screw up that he's just going to fall flat on his face or whatever. But he's not. He's actually really legitimately good at this birding. And he's got this gift where he hears it and he can identify what bird it is just from the call. I love the scene at the very beginning where he's got the headphones in at work and one of the guys asks him, "Hey, what you rocking there?" And he says like some species of bird, and he like want to take a listen, and it is legitimately just bird calls that he's listening to. The guy's like, okay, like it's weird.
I love that so much because I think as nerds, we've all had that moment where we've been at work and we're just like intensely listening to something. And I've had this happen before as well. Whereas they're like, what are you listening to? You just look like you're enjoying it so much. And I'm like, well, the new Star Wars soundtrack came out. And I'm just sitting there listening to Star Wars sounds. Like it's not even, it's not like it's not even, I'm just, I think we've all had that moment, and it was just so neat because I think regardless of whether you're into birding or whether you're into board games or Star Wars or whatever, I think this movie really, the message is that if you feel like you've got to do it, like do it. It doesn't matter what someone else thinks of it. If it makes you happy, maybe don't go broke by doing it like what Jack Black is doing, maybe, but but we have, like, everyone's been at that moment, like, should I really spend this much money on my hobby? But I think that hobbies are important, and I think that your goals are important. And I'm so happy that we're doing this on, our first podcast of the year because people are setting, resolutions. And I'm a huge person into, if you have one big resolution for the year, like make sure you put a whole bunch of smaller resolutions to get you to that big goal and then get it done. And I think that this is one of those things that shows because you can miss so much time doing so many other things. And then you look back at your life and you're like, but did I ever do that one thing for me? Like Tracy, I look up to you so much for doing your marathons. And I'm so excited for you because you haven't let anything get into your way, including COVID and the fact that like you can't actually go to the half marathons and 5Ks to get them done. You've been running on your own time to get these things done. And I think that's like a perfect mirror to the movie that we're talking about. It's so cool.
Oh, thank you.
I agree with Val 100%, by the way, Tracy. And you've got a big one coming up. Like what you're doing, is it next weekend that you're actually running it, or is it the weekend after?
This next weekend, I'll be doing a 5K, a 10K, a half, and a full marathon over 4 consecutive days.
I don't think I've even walked that much my whole life, like all combined.
I keep saying one of these days I'll vacation like a real person because I usually, like the last 5 years, it's been around these kind of events, and I'm like, yeah, I'm nuts, but hey, you know what? Let's do it.
It's awesome. I remember when we first started doing this podcast, and you were running half marathons and just kind of getting into the half marathon kind of thing, and you were saying, yeah, I do half marathons because I'm only half crazy. I don't know what this makes you now after you do this next weekend.
Dopey.
Yeah,
it's officially dopey.
but it is awesome, and it is so much respect. And I agree with what you're saying, Val. If there's something that you want to do, then go out there and do it. We make a lot of excuses for why we can't, and you see that with Steve Martin's character in this. He always had work and he always had this, and I love the relationship between him and his wife. And she's just like, no, you've got to do this. You've talked about this and talked about it. We are behind you 100%. You've got to do this. And his relationship is the kind of relationship I'd like to have with my wife, and that I work on having with my wife, where they're just on the same page. They're in sync. And it is so opposite of Owen Wilson and his wife, who are wanting different things and they're not in sync. And it's just...
Well, he's already hurt one marriage, ruined one marriage, and now he's in the process of ruining the second one. Yeah.
This movie is definitely. Oh, go ahead, Val.
Oh, sorry. I think his character represents kind of the overindulgence of somebody taking something a little too far, because I think, and I've experienced this before in a relationship where, you choose a hobby or something that you love so much a little more than you choose everything else in your life. And so there are things that are important to you, but if you totally alienate, the people in your life because of this one thing, maybe it's an unhealthy thing that you're doing. And so I think there's a happy medium. And I think that's what, everyone in this movie is trying to figure out a happy medium between having to live their life and getting to do the thing that they really love. And they're all coming at it from a different angle. Is it the responsible thing to do? I put so much time into my career. Is it okay for me to say it's time for me now? Or, saying that I've done it. I've already done this. And now should I try to do something else? Is it okay? We've all, I think, been there when you've done something for so long and you've been successful at it. And it's really hard to walk away and let someone else be successful at it. That is a really hard thing to do. And I think that, Owen Wilson's character is kind of going through that, is like, okay, is it enough success that I've done it before? And is it okay that someone else gets the title?
Yeah.
Right.
Owen Wilson's character is like Michael Jordan coming back and playing with the Wizards. He really shouldn't have done it, but he just couldn't just walk away from it because he wanted to continue to be seen as the best. And that's not a great analogy, and I apologize, but
I like that. I thought that was good.
I like that this movie is one that it tells you what's going to happen at the beginning of the movie, and then it actually does it. Like when he's talking to his wife at the beginning of the movie, and she says, "Isn't the big year the reason that your marriage to so-and-so failed?" "No, that was my marriage to this person. My marriage failed for another reason." And you're like, okay, so obviously he's got marital problems, and you see that unfold with this wife who, let's be honest, she was as patient as anybody could be. But like they had talked about, we want to get pregnant. They're going through the process, and that, remodeling the house. She's taking hormones because she's trying to get pregnant with it, like doing all of that kind of stuff that's very hard and taxing on her body. And it's a very difficult time that no one should have to go through alone. And like, even when they're at the hospital for part of the procedure, and he's like at the hospital doors, but the whatever snowy owl or whatever that he's been looking for is somewhere. So he's going to leave, and he tells her, "Oh yeah, I didn't make the flight." Like, she was as patient as anybody really should be with a spouse. And when she lost her patience and the time ran out, like, I don't blame her. Honestly, I really don't. Like, he put himself in that position. And even when they're having the argument and he finds out that she's been having an affair with Frankie, and he's like, "I want to save this. I'm doing whatever I can to save this." She's like, "No, you're not. You're trying to fix this right now so you can get on the flight that you want to get on to go find the birds that you need to find." And he was like, it was totally like, you just feel bad for him. That he doesn't realize what the other two have realized, because you see Steve Martin and he misses opportunities because he goes back to see his grandson. He misses opportunities because he's trying to save his company that he's left behind. He misses opportunities to see some of these birds because of that stuff that is still important. And he's got that balance. And at the end, I love when Jack Black's talking to him and he finds out that Owen Wilson won first place. And he says, "Yeah, but think of everything he lost that we gained this year." And it was such a beautiful thing. Like, coming in first place is not more important if you have to lose everything to get there. I just think that's such a beautiful sentiment at the end, because he's got a girlfriend now, and Steve Martin's got his grandson that he's birding with now. And it's sweet.
Well, yeah. And I was going to say, he also was working a full-time job, and he has all these other things going on. And like you said, trying to find that balance. And he's totally fine with taking second place, because he actually had, if Owen Wilson's character Bostitch had not participated, he would have won. And not only won, he would have set a new world record. And so he realizes the enormity of what he did and what he accomplished. And I got to say, speaking of some of the cameos, Rashida Jones is just a lovely actress. I really enjoy her and wish she was in more stuff.
Yeah, I agree. She was really good. When she popped up, I'm like, it's Ann Perkins. And I loved her character. And I love it anytime that Jack Black gets the girl at the end of the movie, because I'm always pulling for Jack Black to get the girl. And so that made me happy. But sorry, I lost track with Ann Perkins all of a sudden. But speaking of his full-time job, I love that he's working for some nuclear power company. And so when he goes into his boss and he's like, I've got to catch this flight. There's fallout. And he's like, nuclear fallout?
Speaking of fallout.
Fallout.
Well, then it's like boss is trying to guilt trip him into working the weekend. He's like, if the core reactor melts down and we have this major problem, yeah. And we've all been there where you're like, you want to do something, but somebody really needs you to work. Yeah.
And those are the moments, and you have to sometimes make the decision, okay, how do I do this? And sometimes, like, I love what I do with the podcasting stuff and some of the nerdy stuff that I'm involved in. I love events that we get to go to and things like that. And I'm hoping that conventions are back on the menu when fall comes around this year. We'll see. But I love doing those things. But at the same time, I also love my family. And part of loving my family is I've got to provide or help provide. And part of that is my job. And sometimes work responsibilities have to come first. But
right.
There's also something to be said about you make the time for what's important for you. And Jack Black finds a way to do that, gives up all of his weekends and travels around and does what he has to do, staying in crummy hotels and booking crummy flights. And like, I know there's one scene where his mom's describing the flight and it's like, then you've got an hour layover here and then you're flying to here where you've got a layover and then you'll get here. I'm like, man, that sounds like the worst flight ever.
But then she's like, or you could spend the extra 100 and get the nonstop. And he's like, no, better stick with the layovers.
Yep. But yeah,
I think it's such a great example. We often forget this life is so short and we all have a limited amount of time and none of us know how much time we have left. So you've got to try. I mean, you can't just say, screw it, I'm going to be doing whatever I want, whenever I want, and forgo some of those responsibilities. But like you said, Jake, it is all about the balance and finding that happy spot, because none of us want to end up being at the end of our lives and regretting not doing something that we really wanted to do.
Yeah. I agree. And this movie, I think, definitely helps you kind of realize that. And the importance of plus, sharing that. Yeah.
When do you see like a whole bunch of adults, not dorm age adults, but like adults all in one cabin together, sleeping on bunk beds? I can imagine what it smells like. And then, because they all go to the same place in Alaska, and then they're all on bikes, like all of these nerds on these bikes. And I love that so much. And they're going back and forth and back and forth. Like that scene alone.
Yeah.
And now went downhill. Like, I just love that whole section of the movie so much. And then, how Owen Wilson kind of, you can see his personality there and what he's doing. And instead of like working with everyone, he feels like he has to be outside of that. But how much more fun would he have had if he would have experienced this with other people? I think that's also super important. And we've talked about it before, is like, going and seeing Star Wars in a theater with 5 people was not as cool as seeing Star Wars in a theater with 250 people. Sometimes, it's so much better with a group. I just think they do such a great job with the detail underscoring choices that you make in your life, all through birding. What I mean, like, who would I wanted to be in this pitch meeting? Okay, so we've got an idea for a movie. It's about birding.
Well, and thankfully there were people enough that caught the vision of what the movie was really about, because like you said, it is all through birding. But the movie, although they do a great job with the soundtrack, every song has something to do with birds. They incorporate, the different species. They do all of this stuff. But the reality is the movie's really about life and relationships and finding a way to pursue your passion. And I just think it's great. But I agree. What would that pitch meeting sound like when they said, hey, we've got this movie. We're going to talk about the big year where we're spending the whole year looking for birds.
No, here's how you start it. You start off with, I want Steve Martin, Jack Black, and Owen Wilson in a comedy that happens to be about people who go around the country watching birds. And we're not going to make fun of the people who do the birding. This is a very earnest and heartfelt movie.
Yeah.
So give me millions of dollars to go make this.
I mean,
And maybe that's how you do it. You just pitch it
feel
as
like they do make fun of them a little bit.
There's
Yeah,
some
but it's
gentle
not-
ribbing, but it's
I
like
think it is. Yeah, the
it's
gentle
not
ribbing,
like a
like you said.
Christopher Guest film, like Jake mentioned earlier. It's not Best in Show or A Mighty Wind or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there is some moments like it is ridiculous when they're up in the cabin and how stinky it is and everything, and you're like, okay, and like I don't know. I've
And
never.
the guy brings his new wife. That's their
Oh my gosh.
honeymoon.
Yeah, and I think that's making a little bit of fun. Like, hey, this is our honeymoon, and even Owen Wilson realized that was crossing a line. He was like, "All right, well,
Wow.
good luck." And they leave early because
happy anniversary on that one. Yeah, and that island has no services.
That's
They
like
said that
taking
there's.
your
Go ahead, Val.
yeah. That's like taking your new wife that has never seen Star Trek to a Star Trek convention for your honeymoon.
Yeah. She's like, no, I know you love this, so I want to be a part of what you love, so let's go do this. And then you get into it, and you're like, what have I done?
It's true. It's true. I hid a lot of my nerdiness from my wife for the first few years that we were married, and I really wish that I hadn't because she was very understanding. But I took me a long time to let her know how nerdy I really was.
Come out of the closet and bring your action figures with you out of the closet.
You guys know, I mean, in the time that we grew up, because we're not all that far apart in age, any of us, and during the times that you didn't let everybody know that you were a nerd.
No.
Like you hid that away because you got made fun of, and I still do that. I was at the doctor's office the other day, and I was nervous because I was wearing a Star Wars shirt, and I'm like, he's going to think I'm a big nerd. And he's like, "Oh, Mandalorian, yeah. Have you seen the last episode? That was really cool. What'd you?" I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm fine. This guy's okay." But even still, I was still like, let my guard down.
That wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. Like which is so neat. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love the honeymoon couple was just great. I wonder when there is a hurricane and you've got and they all go down there to see all the different birds that might be there. I wonder if there's really that many birding people that are down there. I don't know what the birding community looks like. And so if any of our viewers or listeners are in the birding community, let me know. Do that many people show up when there's a hurricane to find all of the birds that were kind of washed in that came in after the storm and things I don't know. I don't know if that was an exaggeration or not. Yeah.
I kind of get the feeling like there are legit groups of people, not just a few handful of people that do this sort of thing.
It's kind of like storm followers, people that follow the storms. Like I like birds and I really would love to go to like the Galapagos and see birds and go to some bird sanctuaries, but I don't know bird calls and I don't know most of the names or species of the birds. I'm a surface nerd. I'm a surface bird lover. Like I think they're beautiful. I love what they stand for. Like I'm that, but yeah, when I saw this, I was like, I knew people like went to parks and went to try bird watching and people learned bird calls, but I didn't know about the big year. Like I didn't know this was a thing, but it makes total sense. And it's so cool.
Yeah. So this is a fun movie. I definitely think it's about a lot more than birding, like we've talked about. I love the relationships. I love Jack Black's relationship with his father and how that improves.
That one really touched me because like I did not have the best relationship with my dad growing up. And now that we're both older, we've really developed a lot closer than we were before. And I love that scene where his dad is like out there with him and Jack Black's carrying the oxygen tank. And his dad says, go ahead. I'm slowing you down. You've got to see this bird. You go on ahead. And Jack Black reluctantly does. And then later realizes, oh, what have I done? I've lost a track. I've become more of like the Boss Stitch character. Yeah. I'm becoming obsessed with this. I left my dad behind with an oxygen tank. And then he runs down and his dad is there just enthralled because the owl that they came to see is right there. And they get to share that moment together. And I think that is a really beautiful moment.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And probably my favorite moment in the film. And um, yeah, I think it's great. I'm a sucker for
Yeah,
dad
I
relationship
agree.
films.
Mhm.
Same reason anytime Field of Dreams is on, I'll stop and watch it and cry and feel stupid, but it's fine. It's fine. It's normal. It's healthy. So, um, yeah, it's really good. And I think in the end, the big year isn't so much for Jack Black and Steve Martin. It isn't so much the number of birds they found, but the friendship they developed and the relationships they developed and
Mhm.
everything else.
Mhm.
So here we are, first movie of the year.
Yeah.
What are we going to give this one as a grade for the first movie of 2021 that we're doing on the show? Tracy, what's your grade for this one?
So this is the type of film that we often hear people talk about where they say Hollywood doesn't make these family-friendly films that are everybody can watch and enjoy. And they did, and then it kind of gets lost and because it's not what people thought. It's a very heartfelt movie. It holds up really well. There's great character moments, some fantastic acting. It's a fun film. I'm going to go probably like a B plus A minus on this one. I quite enjoyed it. I had seen it before, but I had forgotten so much of it. And it was really kind of nice to go back and watch it again. I don't know that it would be a regular in my rotation, but it's a really, really good movie and definitely worth checking out if you haven't before.
Yeah. What about you, Val?
Yeah, I'm along the same lines. This movie for me is just a feel good movie. It's really easy to watch. And I give it a B plus. I watch it probably once a year. It's not like a once a month for me, but like this year I've watched it more than once just because we've all kind of needed a little more feel good. But I do agree, Tracy, with you is that, sometimes people, when they say it's a family friendly movie, there's a huge group of people that automatically won't go see that
They roll
movie
their eyes.
because that's the label that they put on it. Because they think it's going to be something that's for kids.
Right.
So I don't call this movie a family friendly movie. I just feel like it is a feel good movie that anybody could watch. You could sit your kids down and watch this movie, and some of them, depending on what kind of movies you watch together, they'll have the attention span and they'll enjoy, a lot of it. But it is just a feel good movie, and I really like it, and I really love the attention to detail in the storytelling and the characters. But yeah, solid B plus for me. It's in my yearly rotation, and I would love to have more movies like this.
Yeah. I agree with what you've both said, and I think that this is the reason. This is a good example of the reason why they don't make more films like this, because you look at it, and this had three huge stars. I mean, in 2000, I think it came down 2011. Steve Martin, Owen Wilson, Jack Black. You couldn't get three bigger names in a film at that time. And even today, I think that those are three big names that would draw people to a film. And this film, I think, flopped in the box office. I mean, I think it made money because I don't think it was a huge budget film, but it was rated PG. And when people saw that I think when they saw it was rated PG, they didn't go see it. Like you said, Val, there's a huge group of people that won't. But this is a really, really good movie. And it is really uplifting. And it is one, I said family friendly earlier, and you're right, Val. It's not necessarily one that I would sit down and watch with my kids because I don't think they'd be interested. But I wouldn't be worried if they came in while I was watching it about what they were going to see on the screen. Right. And I like it. I would put it in an A minus for me. I remember when it came out and wanting to go see it and then just not getting around to it and then forgetting about it until we talked about doing Jack Black this month. And I wish that I had had 9 more years of watching this movie more. So
that says a lot. That says a lot.
So
you don't always say that.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, oh, okay, I saw it once. Now that's
really
enough.
Quick. I want to know, because at the end, over the credits, which I love it when filmmakers get creative with the credits, because all these people worked on this movie, but they're showing every single bird that guy actually saw that year. And I was kind of thinking to myself, I wonder if Val's like, yep, got that one. Got that one. Got that one. If it was like a little checklist.
I try not to go to watch it too. Yeah. I try not to watch the credits too much anymore because now that I actually get bird tattoos on me, it just is like, okay, where am I going to put that one? Like, okay, I need that one. You know, Dave will send me a picture of a new bird on Instagram, and I'm like, you're just making more work for yourself. Like, you should stop encouraging more birds. Like yeah.
That's awesome. I will also say that this movie has made me never want to fly in a helicopter as well. Watching the scene with Jack Black and Steve Martin in the helicopter, like, it's just awesome. They're like, "Did you want to get a picture of it?" No, we're good. Just take it down. It's hot. We're good. Work it off. But yeah, it is a fun movie. It's a good way to start out the year for us to talk about this one. I'm so excited that we're talking about Jack Black. We have Nacho Libre next week. I have to go back and look at the list because there's so many great Jack Black movies. I can't remember all the ones that we talked about doing, and I don't want to mention one of them. We're not talking about it because that would be disappointing to people. But yeah, so we're going to do Nacho Libre next week, and then we've got Be Kind, Rewind, and Jumanji that we're going to be talking about. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So you guys want to keep coming back because we'll be talking about Jack Black all month in January. We're super excited. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Remember to like and subscribe. And I'm trying to hide my son who snuck into the
Hey, buddy.
here.
Happy New Year.
he can't hear you because I've got headphones in. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for watching, listening, like, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. We really appreciate that. And until next time, we won't see you at the movies. Oh.
This has been a Stolen Droids Media production.